Hello and welcome to the Gaming with Science podcast, where we talk about the science behind some of your favorite games.
Today, we're going to talk about the Endangered Rescue series by Grand Gamers Guild. Hey, welcome back to Gaming with Science. We're doing a creator interview today. This is Brian.
And this is Jason, sounding a little froggy because I either threw my voice out yesterday giving an outdoor lecture or I have finally developed an allergy to corn pollen, and I'm not sure which it is.
Anyway, we are joined by two guests today. Marc, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Sure, I'm Marc Specter of Grand Gamers Guild. I consider myself the largest of the small indie publishers. We are entering into our 10th year of publication, if you can believe it. I started out in 2016 with one little title, and these days I'm kind of amazed. And I'm juggling about 10 titles at a time in various stages of development, and I work with amazing creators, both designers as well as artists. I fire emails and build relationships around the world, and the journey's not even close to over yet.
So I was at Origins and I ran into Marc and he introduced a game to me that I thought would be interesting for us to talk about. So we've got somebody else with us today, the designer or one of the designers of that game. This is Ellett.
Yeah, hi. My name is Ace. I'm, like you said, one of the designers of the whole Endangered Rescue series right now. My wife, Anna, is the other designer. We've been playing escape rooms together for about 10 years now, and that's kind of where we come from with the background of all this. But designing tabletop games for the last 6 or 7 years, since about 2019. We do some of our own designs, but through a friend, we got paired up with Marc about 2 or 3 years ago now.
So Ace, I want to ask you a question because I've been curious about this. Were escape rooms really a thing before the Saw movie franchise?
They were certainly a thing. I think in Asia is most commonly the agreed upon a location of where it started, but it would have been early 2000s, I believe. And I think that Saw movie probably would have been like 2004, 2005 here in the States. So we really saw a huge surge of that, and especially during pandemic time later, to get a little even further ahead of that, a lot of games being played at home, being played digitally or online. I don't have to go to a location and have them lock me in a room in order to really experience the fun, the sense of just awe when it comes to solving all these puzzles and getting that hit of like feel goods from realizing how smart you are.
Is calling it an escape room game, is that basically branding over like a puzzle game, or is there a separate genre of puzzle games?
That's a very good question. We say escape room games. Anna and I run Bluefish Games outside of working with Marc, which is sort of a separate puzzle game endeavor. We would say puzzle games when we describe what we do, but the public at large, they're usually more familiar with escape room games. So in the sense that you're taking, somewhere between half an hour to some games last 3, 4, 5 hours, and you're kind of working through a narrative and getting to an end where you have an answer. Yes, it's an escape room because that's going to follow that same path.
Okay, so tell us about the Endangered Rescue series.
Sure. So I'll start if you're okay with that, Ace. Endangered Rescue is kind of the baby that came out of Holiday Hijinks and Endangered. So back about 5 years ago, I got wind that Jonathan Schaffer was making a small escape room game. Now, Jonathan has an annual tradition of building an accessible, small, portable, inexpensive game that he can send to friends and family, gamers and non-gamers, to as a cute little Christmas gift. And he's done all sorts of different things for, I want to say, at least a decade, but he could give you the specifics.
It is like the world's most awesome Christmas card.
Yeah, seriously. Literally, sometimes it is on a card or a postcard. And so I got wind, he did an interview, that he was doing a Christmas-themed mini escape room game. I reached out to him and I said, Jonathan, we got to do this thing. Let's make this a real published game. And it was great. And then I said, well, can you do it again? And can you do it again? And now we've done that 16 times. I also do a game with another designer called Endangered. It's a cooperative game about saving endangered species, about convincing the United Nations that an animal is worth saving. One of the chief variations comes in the animal scenarios. While, of course, every board game is an abstract of reality, we work really hard, or let me just say Joe works really hard, to make sure that every animal feels different and that they are as reflective on the board as they possibly can be of the real life animal. The primary scenario in Endangered is the tiger scenario. It's the first one.
Mhm.
And in the real world, tigers are territorial. And so after they mate, they split up. And so in the game, we represented that after tigers make a baby, they split up. The mom and the dad, they're just bits. They're not actual mom and dad pieces. And the baby all end up in separate areas, which creates other confounding things as to progressing your success in the game. So now, after we had a very successful set of what we called Holiday Hijinks, but now we've backed up and to have a larger title called 18 Escape, and we had Endangered going really well and successfully. I think I just kind of was looking at one day what we could possibly do with the system, and I loved the idea that we might be able to build an animal rescue adventure around those two things. And I talked to Jonathan, and so he went to put out feelers, basically introduced them to me, and I pitched Ace and Anna on what I wanted to see happen, and we were off to the races. And the very first Endangered Rescue was Galapagos Penguin, and then that was followed by the Lemur Leaf Frog. And now we have two more coming. One is Tasmanian Devil, which was done hand in hand with the Endangered Australia expansion. The newest one will be Chambered Nautilus, which is done in partnership with Science Friday, a radio show turned podcast that has been on the air for
forever.
Gosh, I want to say at least 3 decades. Doing science, entertainment, and reporting, and in support of their annual Cephalopod Week.
So the Endangered Rescue 18-card Escape series is part of the Endangered Expanded Universe, the Endangered Cinematic Universe, yes?
There you go. There you go. Like I said, it's like Endangered and 18 Escape had a baby.
How have you chosen which animals to focus on? You said penguins, lemur leaf frogs. Tasmanian devils are really cool. We didn't do our interesting science fact because this isn't a normal episode, but the contagious facial cancer of the Tasmanian devil. Is that part of the game?
Yes, it is.
The little I know about Tasmanian devils, that's one of the chief threats to their existence. So, I mean, I don't really inform what Ace and Anna do in terms of content. I trust them implicitly to research and vet the substance along with the consultation of our subject matter experts. Hope to enjoy that in the not too distant future.
Ace, are you and Anna, have you been the ones who've decided which animals to focus on, and how have you chosen?
Yeah, a lot of the times we will do research across several different animals. We've got some sort of broad requirements that we use. Usually we use the IUCN list to look at endangered species. We try and make sure that they're classified all the way into endangered. And I think the Nautilus actually is the first one who might be slightly on the edge of that, just because of that group trying to actually get enough of a sense of the population of the Nautilus to be able to say they are endangered. In the past, the animals that we've looked at, we've looked for animals that, first of all, that aren't in the endangered board game, because we want to branch out from that a little bit. But also, we're trying to find animals that are both interesting to people that are going to capture your imagination, but also that we can connect to in some way, and that we can talk about what is the threat to them? What are they actually endangered from? So that's something that we look at, because the endangered board game has this notion of roles. In the Endangered Rescue games, we've taken inspiration for the theme of the game and the narrative, the story. Those are coming from not only the roles in the endangered board game, but cards in the endangered board game. So in the case of the penguins, you're actually a wildlife television show host, and you're on location creating a television show. And you kind of branch off from that into this adventure that you go on. The goal of the game actually ends up being, get your show aired, get it to the production facility. There's a card in Endangered that says, produce the season 2 of Wild World, which is the name of the show. So we kind of start from there. We look for what could match up and hopefully tie it all back together. We actually talk with Joe frequently as we go through these, and he has a lot of good ideas for animals that he's thinking about in the future, or that he's looked at and he's like, not quite good for the board game, but would be interesting. So kind of a big mishmash of all of that.
We as gamers, we crave novelty. I mean, that's why the cult of the new is a thing. And one of the things I've asked Ace and Anna to do is have a breadth and depth of creatures. We want different species, we want different environments, and that's why we've gone from an aquatic bird to an amphibian to a mammal to a cephalopod.
To a weird mammal, a carnivorous marsupial, and now arguably one of the weirdest of the cephalopods, yes?
Yeah, I just think, I think we focused on Chambered Nautilus aesthetically. To Ace's point, it's important to have an animal that it will captivate people. And I think the Chambered Nautilus is just so amazing to look at that you look at it and you kind of just are in awe of the visual presentation.
I mean, shelled cephalopods used to be like most of the cephalopods.
Ammonites ruled the ocean for a long time.
Ammonites and orthocones, the ones with the long extended. You can find fossils of them all the time, but like now we've just got the Chambered Nautilus. How did this partnership with Science Friday develop? So this seems like a wonderful thing where you can correlate the game to their Cephalopod Week, which I guess is their answer to Shark Week, yes?
Yeah, sure. I have been a fan and listener to Science Friday for at least 15 years. And of course, every year I hear the Cephalopod Week. Well, one day, listening to an episode, they just rattled out a phone number. I said, you know what? Tack with it. I'm giving them a call. I left a voicemail that said something like, hey, my name is Marc Specter. I'm a board game publisher, and I have an idea that I'd really like to pitch to you for Cephalopod Week. And it wasn't really very long, quite frankly, until they called me back. And they really loved what I had to offer. Of course, we are giving a royalty back to Science Friday as thanks for their partnership, as thanks for their co-branding and in support of Cephalopod Week. Yeah, it's just been a really wonderful relationship. Just that came out of my desire to do something for an organization that I feel has done so much for me. They've just educated and entertained me for so long. The ability to give back to them in a way that is both monetary and fun and tangible really is kind of a tentpole event in both my professional and my personal life.
We played the Lemur Leaf Frog. How challenging is it to try to blend the science and the puzzle? Because I know I definitely felt like sometimes it felt like they weren't mixing in the game. Like literally the answer cards would have the science fact on the top and then like the puzzle next step on the bottom. We only played the one game, so I don't know what the other ones are like, but how easy is it to try to get those to mesh organically? Or is it that you really are we're going to take a bunch of science facts and we're going to take a puzzle game and we're going to kind of like glue the two of them together and make it work as well as we can?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And the Lemur Leaf Frog game is furthest in the direction of, I don't want to say like far away from the frog itself, but kind of in that game, the story is that you are running a fair or a community event. They're selling food. They're presumably going to put on some lectures or to engage the community. When you hear someone talk about conservation and imagine how you can impact conservation, I think people have this notion of like, you can only do that if you're going out in the wild and like crawling through plants and actually being with these animals. And that's one of the things that we wanted to really emphasize was it's anyone. It can be any of us. And doing things is really where it starts. And those things can be really small. Those things can be, putting on this local town fair. It could be making sure that, just handing out leaflets, that sort of thing. But really taking any sort of action at all is I think the foundation of these stories about conservation. In the Lemur Leaf Frog game, we are talking about your journey through what is a little bit of an administrative process, but throughout all of these games, like you said, we want to make sure that you might do a task that's like, figure out where these tickets go, figure out how to get into the cash box in order to get the tickets that you need to give to people. You're using puzzle solving skills during that time, but you're also going to pick up a couple of facts sort of like sneakily by reading what's happening in the game and just being immersed near those people and near that subject matter. So in all of the games, what we hope is that they play this fun game and along the way, they're like, oh, that's interesting. Like, I didn't know that thing. And then later, it's something that can, it's an amount of information that can stick with them and that can really they can carry forward. Not to be mean to the subject, but that some people will find hard to grasp or less interesting. So we want to push the puzzling and that knowledge of science topics together.
Brian, you did the puzzle that involved actually looking up the tree frog facts.
Mhm.
And I think we were working together on the one that involved looking up, with all these things provided as part of the game, like the list of various endangered or threatened animals in its same habitat.
And we want to give you, like I said, not overwhelm you. Yes, the information that we give you is almost always used. It's information that we've gone through what we think are the most interesting bits of this situation. And we've then compiled that and given that to the person who's playing.
You've got like Chekhov's clues. It's like, well, they wouldn't have put this information here if it wasn't important.
Yeah, exactly. Like, we're right there next to you. We're excited that you're playing. We're hoping that you're having a good time. If you don't feel smart at least once through the game, like, that's on us. That's our failure. But even more so than that, if you feel stupid at any point, that is a huge failure. That's like a stop for us. Like, let's go back and redesign whatever you did. So there's lots of ways of signposting information. There's lots of small visual clues. Anna is our designer. Mm-hmm. She's great at putting something on a card, and you don't even know it, but you're like, I see this shape here, and that's going to trigger something in my head.
I do like this idea, something you're emphasizing, of incidental learning. I think all of the best games with science aspects in them sort of encourage that. There's also this idea, I was just listening to an interview by Peter Hayward. You're going to use it to solve the puzzle. It's also probably going to stick with you. I learned things about the Lemur Leaf Frog that I didn't know.
So who's your target audience for this? Is it puzzle gamers? Is it people more in the nature conservancy area? Playing it, this actually felt like this would work really well as like a K through middle school educational tool, way of making learning some things about endangered animals slightly more fun by wrapping it up in a bit of a puzzle game. Like, who are you targeting with this?
Some of those puzzles might be kind of hard, though.
Okay, maybe not K, but yeah, middle school.
Yeah.
Right. I'll say that our target audience is all of those. And in fact, one of the exciting things about the relationship with Science Friday is that they have their outreach programs, which may in fact help us get the Chambered Nautilus into middle and high schools.
Nice.
Where they can play it as a classroom. In terms of what my organic reach is, we're going to be in your local game store, and we're also going to be at your board game convention. So we are mostly hitting gamers, and some of those are puzzle gamers already, and some of those are people we have turned into puzzle gamers because of how accessible our games are. Going back to what Ace said, we want people to have a good time. We want to tell fun stories, and we don't want you to walk away feeling bad. We have a graduated hint system, so you never get stuck, and that you can continue and complete the adventure, unlike some other systems, in a way that will get you there.
So, Ace, let me ask you, how did you do the research on the animals for the game, and how did you find your science consultants for the different animals?
Yeah, those are kind of the same answer for us. So, like I said, we start with probably 5 different animals that we're considering. Anna and I will usually split those up and look into, can we find a hook? What are we going to use as the story for the game, as specifically talking about what someone can do to help. So that's something that we look for in a lot of these animals is, this is the problem. I want to be able to quantify what these animals are going up against, and then maybe give a suggestion for someone how someone might be able to help. Usually, once we have an animal in mind, a lot of it is just kind of exploring, just, Google, find different resources, find trusted sources and find sources that agree with each other. In several of these cases, we've been lucky enough, especially through our connection with Marc, he's been able to find often the expert that we are reading the papers from. So
nice.
In the case of the Nautilus, we went and we did some research, and we found there seemed to be one particular scientist, I'm hoping I'm not saying his name wrong. We haven't actually met in person, but Dr. Barad, a PhD who works with the Nautilus. We were using a lot of his material, his lectures, videos, articles. We were using that as source material to inform our puzzle design. Talking with Marc about designing this, he said, hey, I've reached out to this person, and it turned out to be the same guy. And we're like, this is great. This is, this is the expert that we've been getting our information from. Building on that connection has been great. We've been able to do that, I think, in either 3 or all 4 of our games so far. It just happened to line up where, like, we've identified someone who is the expert, and then we approach them, and they have always been just the greatest people to be able to say, like, you can tell that they're truly interested in conservation, in preserving these animals, and in helping. And they've been willing to get on board and start talking about correcting the facts that Anna and I find, and helping say, what is the experience like out in the field? What can people do to help? It's just a lot of really good concrete information.
Yeah, they're all busy experts, but we find that if they do have the time, they're really excited about the opportunity to see the animal that they're passionate about realized in a game. It's been very gratifying. Also, what's been really great is that Ace and Anna create this game walkthrough that gives the subject matter expert something quite tangible to hold on to and to provide correction with. But even more than that, they've also provided us critical feedback on our visual presentation. We have a nature artist, Dorian Noel, who does, animal scientific illustration. But I mean, even one guy can't know the ins and outs of every animal. Let's use the Chambered Nautilus as an example. Dr. Berard gave us integral feedback, like there's some sort of a valve on I guess what you'd call the face of a Chambered Nautilus that Dorian had neglected to illustrate. He pointed out right away, hey, you're missing this thing. And Dorian said, okay, we'll get it in there. And so there were about 3 passes until we were satisfied with our cover presentation.
A lot of experts are always excited to talk about their work, and that someone wants to hear about their work. And yeah, you'll find biologists do fall in love with their subject matter. I know Jason does love his corn. If you find somebody who studies leeches, they love leeches.
Oh,
They
Lord.
will tell you everything that they know about leeches. But it's just, we're just weird that way. I'm going to throw you guys a question. I'm curious to hear what you think. What is your opinion on educational content in games? Because I have talked to quite a few people, and there's a lot of reluctance to ever attach the word educational to anything that you're doing in the game space.
Well, I'll begin by saying that everything I do is game first. I mean, we're not going to wildly misrepresent something for the sake of a game. As I indicated earlier, sometimes things need to be abstracted out in order to make them playable. But, we are a game first company who values the integrity of the underlying information. And so we've always gotten some kind of a subject matter expert on board, from endangered to endangered rescue, to vet the content and make sure that we are being as accurately representative as we can be.
The one other thing that I wanted to do, we try to do this for everybody who comes on at this point, is what is a favorite game of yours?
So are you asking just generally a game I favor, or a favorite game that I've literally made?
A game that you enjoy playing in your free time when you want to do leisure, not work.
I don't know. I'm actually fine with both.
Sometimes they could be one and the same. Ace, I'm going to let you go first on this one.
Sure. I have kind of pulled Anna. I was definitely the one who was more on the board game side, just getting started in developing Bluefish games. I've kind of pulled her towards more of the strategy games. One of the ones that I'm trying to get her to play more often with me right now is Scythe. One of the ones that she's been willing to play more recently has been SETI. It's been really cool to see. I don't know that I'd call either, especially Scythe, but SETI more it's sort of an educationally adjacent game. Or
we have an episode coming out on it later this season, actually.
We do.
Oh, cool. Yeah, anything that has lots of different levers to pull and that sort of thing is something that I naturally gravitate to. But I think, like Marc said earlier, like, fun first is the most important thing. So lots of different situations, playing lots of games. I think the important part is just being able to hang out with some friends and pull those levers together.
If the game's not fun, no one's going to play it. That's just, It doesn't matter how much good educational content in there. If it's not enjoyable to play, there's really no point in making it, right?
Yep.
All right, Marc, you had either 1 or 2 answers, right?
Yeah, sure. So I will. I'll give a self-serving answer and a non-self-serving answer. My own game that I always enjoy and I've been spending a lot of time with it lately is called Garinto. It's an abstract engine builder that it is extremely gratifying, not just to play myself, but when I have the opportunity, which is very frequently, to teach other people. And it's a game I can explain and you can totally understand within about 5 minutes. And watching the light bulb go on for people never gets old. I mean, it is the game that when I am at a convention showing it off, it is the game that other people will walk by and just shout at people, just buy that game because because they love it and they're passionate about it. Another game that's not self-serving I'll throw out is called Beer Pioneer.
Okay.
And I cannot remember the designer and I cannot remember the publisher, but it's a small German publisher. It is just a crunchy game about brewing beer. And it's just really well done. I mean, doesn't hurt that I love beer. Just a fun abstraction of the process of building your little beer empire. It's if you like heavier Euros, I wouldn't call it a heavy Euro. I'd call it heavier. Seek it out and give it a play.
Will there be a Science Friday short, an episode, a podcast about Chambered Nautilus?
I know that they will be promoting it before and during Cephalopod Week. Whether there will be an episode about our game specifically is something that I'm not aware of. You know,
Okay.
I would not deign to take up airtime talking about a game, although it sure would be exciting to do that. And I know that they're still plotting and planning, their schedule. They have a lot to coordinate to pull off something ambitious like Cephalopod Week. So we're just one small part of that.
Well, you don't need them to make an episode about the game. You've done it with us. And now you just need them to link to us, and it'd be
That's
great.
right. Maybe they can put your episode on their feed and exposure to their millions of listeners. That might be a thing.
We will certainly point our listeners towards Cephalopod Week because that sounds really cool. I would like to listen to some episodes about cephalopods for sure.
Yeah, with no disrespect to you guys, the Science Friday podcast is some of the best entertainment I have had the joy of absorbing ever since podcasts became a thing for me.
Where can our listeners find you or find out more about the game? Obviously, we already said we'll point people to Cephalopod Week on Science Friday.
Yeah, so as far as Grand Gamers Guild, grandgamersguild.com on the internet or the Grand Gamers Guild Facebook page, both will get you to the content you crave, so to speak. Every time you reach out, you're pretty much talking to me. I am Chief Everything Officer. I do everything from sweep the floors to sign the checks. With respect to Endangered Rescue and specifically Chambered Nautilus, we just put it up on the GenCon Click and Collect, meaning you can order with no shipping and then come and pick it up at GenCon. Or if you are not attending GenCon, you can simply place a pre-order. And as soon as we get it in our hot little hands, we will turn around and send it to you. So all of that, again, is at grandgamersguild.com.
What about you, Ace?
Yeah, from our side, all of our Endangered Rescue games actually go through Grand Gamers Guild, so that's the best place to find those. You can actually get one thing that I really like that Marc does is he posts print and plays available for sale on that site. So if you want to play, right now, as long as those games are published and are printed and everything, you could actually download the game and print it yourself and play right there. If you're looking for Anna and I, Bluefish games outside of that, we are at teambluefish.com. We run our own line of games all set in what we call our Hinks universe, which is a whole other imaginary, eccentric-led community. That's where you find the bulk of our games, although we're interested and we try and have our hands in all different kinds of puzzle games and activities like that. So you may see us turn up in other places as well.
So at Bluefish, you have the Hinks cinematic universe, yes?
Yes, that's correct. We have, I think, we produced a monthly newspaper for about 2 years. So if you count each of those issues as its own game, which it is kind of intended to be, there's about probably 30-ish games in that line, in that universe. But if you look at sort of a bigger box, it's somewhere between 8 and 10 probably. But there definitely benefits from being in universe and having experience from game to game.
All right, so I think we're going to cut it there. Thanks so much, Marc and Ace, for joining us to talk about this game. It was really interesting. We haven't played puzzle games before, so this was a great introduction to it. And to get to play one that has sort of a science connection, obviously, sort of gave us a great excuse to do so. So with that, everybody have a great month and great games.
And have fun playing dice with the universe. See ya.
This has been the Gaming with Science podcast, copyright 2026. Listeners are free to reuse this recording for any non-commercial purpose as long as credit is given to Gaming with Science. This podcast is produced with support from the University of Georgia. All opinions are those of the hosts and do not imply endorsement by the sponsors. If you wish to purchase any of the games that we talked about, we encourage you to do so through your friendly local game store. Thank you, and have fun playing dice with the universe.